Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we got to look at the new American Tier 6 Premium Destroyer Sims. I got Halsey on the screen there. That's the build we're going to see in this game. More focused on the torpedoes. Mordoff, more focused on the guns. Now, it's a pretty similar build, and the American Destroyers usually are going to be focused on the guns in general. But since I got Mordoff, which boosts the reload speed a little bit, then I've transitioned Halsey into a guy who can put on ships like the Benham, that have a little bit more of a torpedo focus. Sims is like the Venom on steroids. We'll talk about that as the game goes on here. But opening play, I want to kind of describe what we're doing here because this is a pretty strong play, in my opinion, to make in a destroyer over here, and it's heavy on the spotting. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to pull forward. We're going to go to the west, kind of near the edge of the map there, and that'll allow us to have an angle into their base. A lot of times you'll see the destroyers kind of, maybe they'll play more towards the east, trying to go through the gap by the big island, or, who knows what they're going to do. But if you go basically where we're going to go here, north spawn, south spawn, doesn't matter, they're mirrored spawns. If you swing to the east, then you'll have an angle into the enemy spawn, and then that limits their ability to use those islands. You can see the island right there, about a kilometer in front of us on the screen. Our team can utilize that island. It's got nice low features, so it'll block the line of sight from the enemy, but our team can shoot over it if we properly spot, and if the red team sticks around here. Now, in this particular game, they're going to basically just abandon this side. Not an uncommon play for the North to make, just because, as in this game, usually the South team will overload this side. So it's not incumbent on the red to play aggressively over here. They either want to play in a stall type of a strategy, which is what I usually try and do, or they can just bail out, which I think is more or less what they're going to do right off the bat. So anyway, you can see where we are here. Now, if there's domination mode, there'd be a cap there. We'd be going around the edge of the cap. You have to read the situation. If you think it's more profitable to get on the cap and spot, you can do that. Or if you think opening with some spotting maneuvers and then clearing the side out quickly, then getting on the cap, you got to read that situation. But as you can see here, red isn't allowing us to make the play. They're kind of moving to the east, and our team's not really shooting at anything that we're spotting over here anyway. So we have the torps down there hoping to catch a destroyer that might be coming through here. It would be really nice to get the Belfast. The Belfast should be a high priority target. It's a radar cruiser, and we're going to see the Belfast alive late in the game, and that almost costs us the win at the end. So doesn't matter what class of ship you're in, battleship, cruiser, destroyer, you got to be cognizant of which ships are radar cruisers, which ships have the radars, and you got to get rid of them because they're big time threats to your destroyers, who are primarily responsible for scoring the points and winning the game. So any pressure you can take off your destroyers by removing those radar cruisers, especially early, you're going to make winning the game a lot more easy to accomplish. Anyway, here I'm thinking about, my tendency is to go back to defend the base, especially, when we see the South Center spawn come this way. That puts a lot of pressure on the east side to defend the base. But both teams are kind of in a stalemate pattern here where they're not being aggressive. So I'm trying to decide, should we maybe stick around here and potentially try and get on their base? The Belfast, the presence of the Belfast essentially limits that play, and it makes it unviable. If I try and push in the base and the Belfast is where he is now, he'll just go right towards the base, hit the radar once he thinks he's within range of me, and kill me very quickly. So we cannot really pressure the base as long as that ship's alive. And you can see he's basically taking no damage. So not only does the Belfast threaten the destroyers, but it kind of limits their playmaking ability. And we're not really looking at getting on the base, to try and get on there and capture the base necessarily, but we could consider at least potentially getting on there, trying to stop their team's accrual of points for 1 or 2 minutes and let the score be manipulated that manner. But you can see we're down 2 ships here. Icarus pops up, and we're going to go ahead and try and pummel him. Now the Sims versus a ship like the Icarus, of course this is still an American gunboat, so we should be winning a lot of these fights. Like the Benham, we got 1 less turret. Kidd and Benson have 5 turrets with 1 gun each. Benham and Sims, you're down 4. So that's a 20% reduction in firepower right there. And you can definitely feel it. I mean, this thing, even if you get into positions where we're able to kind of unload on the guns, and they're still quick reloading guns. They're still typical American destroyer guns, which are overall pretty effective. But, you know, the DPM is cut down because of the lack of the turret. I suspect the AA is probably pretty good on this one. We don't have the AA stats, of course. And if you're watching this in the future, we don't even have the carriers yet. We just concluded the test recently. So maybe that's being taken into account. But as you can see here, we're getting pushed by this Kanais now. Now, I need to stay for sure 3 kilometers away from this guy, because if, you know, he gets within 3 kilometers, then we're proxy spotted. And then once we're spotted, you know, potentially a lot of people on that team could light us up with the gun. So this is a high-risk play, and then we were broadside of the torp there. Thought I was going down, but getting into the maneuverability of the Sims, that's one of the highlights here. Turn circle, or undershot, so the rudder shift with this build, 2.7. With my other Mordov build, it was all the way up to 3 seconds. But very good rudder shift. Tight turn circle, tight turn radius, 500. Looks like the best at the tier, one of the best in the game, if not the best. And speed, 38.5 on this build. So mobility, very good. I got the prop mod in slot 2 because that rudder shift is already elite, so we don't need to put another steering gears on there. You could if you want to, but getting the prop mod on whenever you already have good, you know, to excellent steering is always a good option, because that kind of play right there where we dodge that torp at the last second, that's something you get nuked on if you don't have that prop mod in that situation. So my build philosophy for destroyers usually is put the prop mod on there unless the steering is so detrimental that we got to, you know, fix that, because you'd rather have better steering than the prop mod in general. But once the steering hits a certain threshold, then the prop mod becomes quite useful. Anyway, we're spotted there. We're looking at the twist and track to figure out where he's at. We're not really panicking here. Now, we don't have the smoke available, and we're in the middle of the red team, so we are in danger. But we got the island, I believe, between me and the battleships to the east. I was trying to position that way. Maybe they're, maybe I'm not behind cover at the moment, and I'm just getting lucky because they're not looking at us. But Shirat Soyu, he's got the torps in. Now we slammed on the brakes and dodged those. And again, that was kind of another display of that maneuverability of the Sims. And then we go ahead and gun them down. So that was a nice play. And now looking at here, we're wide in the open. So we're just kind of getting lucky there that those ships are missing us. I think that's a New Mexico to the north. He missed us. And then whatever it is directly to the east, they're not paying attention to us. So that was high risk, but we got away with it there. And we did take out one of their destroyers. So now we got a 2 destroyer to 1 advantage. And we definitely want to press that. What else is going on? Why am I comparing it to the Benham on this thing? Well, instead of a 109-second reload that you'd have on the Benson, the Benham, you got 81.6 reload. This one, even better, 72 seconds. Damage, even lower. Benson, 11,600 damage. Benham, 9,233. This one, 8,500. And here we got even better range. We got 9.2 kilometers with this build and 53 knots, which is extremely slow. So torpedoes, kind of a toss-up. You know, that Mordov build, they end up being more like Mayhan torps, where you got, I think it's about 5.5 kilometer range. You can only really torp ships that are coming at you, but the performance, the speed, you know, all that sort of stuff, the damage is all better under that build. So even though you might look at the torp range and be like, okay, wow, these are pretty good for American torps. You know, they're extremely slow, and, you know, with kind of a focus on the torpedoes with this build, they're not that great. Now, the reaction time is outstanding. 5.8 seconds with this build. That's with that Azure Landtago on there. Keep that in mind, but regardless if you have that inspiration or not, you're still going to have very good reaction time, which limits the amount of time the enemy has to react to the torps, is basically what that stat means. So stats-wise, you know, the ship looks alright, but again, I think I much prefer the Kid. I much prefer the Benson. The Sims can perform kind of the same counter-destroyer role, but the main problem with the Sims is we have 13,800 health. Compare that to, say, the Kid, 16,400. That extra, basically 3,000 HP there, plus the heal on the Kid. That keeps the Kid firmly in grasp of the title of Sheriff. You know, the counter-destroyer extraordinaire. Sims, You can do the role, but you got to be careful. You got to be making sure the support ships of the red team aren't able to whack you, because you can't really survive strong counter, incoming fire from a well-coordinated attack from the enemy. So you got to pick your spots a little bit more with the Sims. Kid, you can kind of kill whatever destroyer you run into, pop the smoke, and then use the heal and use the better HP that you start off with anyways to live to fight another day. And you got the extra gun, so you're going to be killing the enemy destroyers quicker, allowing you to disengage a little bit more quicker. So Sims, I don't think it's definitely not my favorite ship. I don't think it's going to become my most played ship anytime soon. And I don't know. I would say this, like, some people really like the Benham. If you really like the Benham, I think you're really, really going to like the Sims. Let's just put it that way. It just seems like on the scale from the Benson and the Kid on one end to the Benham, and then you'd put the Sims on the other end, even further along that spectrum. So, again, if you're into the Benham, you'd probably like the Sims. Anyway, evaluating this game here. Now, we got a seemingly pretty firm grasp on this game here. But if we're looking around here, we got the 2 battleships and we got the Belfast, who, yes, he really isn't taking more. He's probably taken one more salvo since the last time we checked in on him 10 minutes ago, which is a major problem because, again, we want to be pressuring this base that forces the enemy to react, and it gives us more leeway with the score because, as we're going to see here, we're actually going to be down in score when we become equal in ships, and now that becomes a major issue. So because that Belfast is still there, because the radar potential still exists, we cannot get near that ship, we cannot get near the cap because the ship's on the cap, and that is creating lots of problems. Because we got spotting right now, though, we go ahead and pop our smoke. We're just going to try and get rid of this New Mexico. I was actually trying to start tapping him with these guns and hope that he would be like, all right, I was backing up. Now we know there's a destroyer in the area. I'm going to go ahead and put it in forward gear, which would have caused him to hit the torps had he done it early enough. So that's really why I decided to lay the smoke and begin opening fire here. Getting a couple fires on this guy, beginning to whittle him down, would be nice, but keeping that smoke for later in the game, especially as it's becoming more and more likely that we're going to have to make a play to win this game, well, you'd rather have the smoke than I'm just getting 10,000 damage doing whatever there, and yeah, we got a fire on him, but it's not really that big of a deal. Belfast recognizes there's at least one destroyer. Maybe he even knows both of us are here. He's pushing in. I'm going to be trying to shoot at him. We're taking risks here because we're in the smoke, and his radar is going to run out relatively soon. He might get a couple salvos off, but I rolled the dice there saying, all right, if he hits me, he hits me. I'm slamming on the brakes. He's not even aiming at us. And we do have the torps there, but we got a lot of guys chiming in. New Mexico behind him shot at us, but we luckily dodged those. Hoping the Belfast takes the torpedo here as we get the Confederate on him. But he dodges there, and he gets away, and he's still at about half health, and he's still the biggest threat to the Blues team's ability to win this game. Again, our main strength is the fact that we have destroyers. They don't, but the Belfast, him being alive, as you can see, is beginning to aggravate me quite a bit that he's still alive. That's the biggest threat, and, potentially we could lose the game because he's there. Now, he just burned the radar. Yes, I understand that, but, he's still got quick reloading guns, and if something goes awry, we get spotted. Well, that's a problem. And, I'm just trying to inform my teammates via comms that killing that Belfast should be the #1 priority. Shooting battleships that are going to take a while to kill anyways, not that relevant. So as long as we don't lose any ships, we're up on score here. But you always got to be saying to yourself, if you're within 100 points of the enemy team and you got a battleship on your team, well, if they sink that battleship, they're going to be up. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. So I'm recognizing that my team's probably going to lose at least 1, maybe 2 ships. We want the Belfast dead before we need to make a play. Because again, if it's just the 2 battleships over there, they're going to be afraid of me. And I got enough HP at this point in time. I can cash some of that HP in for a suicide rush if need be. And that's going to be my best chance to hit anything reliably with torps on this ship just because they are so slow. But again, the longer the Belfast is alive and the more he's kind of in the way of where we want to go, the bigger the problem. And you can see right now we're down 20 points, and we're within a minute left in the game. So I'm going to be like, all right, I got to get on the base, but we got to kill something. So I'm going to make sure we get everything spotted here, and then hopefully my team chimes in with the guns. But as it becomes more and more, apparent, we're just going to have to get involved with this, start shooting the Belfast, take him down very quickly, and then hope that we survive the incoming onslaught, because you got a Nelson there, he's got HE loaded. He's looking to one-shot us. The Belfast, if he chimes in with a salvo or two, we can go down very quickly. And then there's the first shot coming in at us. Decent hit on us. Ooh, the Nelson did have AP there, so we probably got away with one. But we've cashed in about half of our available HP. Belfast still not down, but there he goes finally. And then we immediately point our rear directly at those ships, because we want as much horizontal dispersion to help as many of those shells miss as possible, because we know we're going to be taking shots. So that guy right there, that's broadside, especially it looked like he was almost out of health. That was high risk. You want to be pointing away from them. Anyways, that's a look at the Sims for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Questions, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.